Hello, my name is Fran Clark, and I wanted to show you a little bit about how to use GMetrix as an administrator. So let's get started. After your account is created, the first thing you're going to want to do is add user accounts. To add administrator, you click Add Administrator. You put all the usernames in there. Make sure all the permissions are checked. Click Save. I've already got an account, so I'm not going to add some, but these are just some of the accounts that are in my particular school. Next, the most important things that you have to start out with is an access code. Every semester, we end up doing new access codes because they expire after a set amount. So, what you're going to want to do, and these are the codes that we created last year, the different teachers. So to create a code, click Create Code. Depending on what your school does, you may see one of these things, you may see three, you may see more. But for this particular GMetrix for Microsoft, you want to click on MOS Full Suite Annual License and click the plus button. Alright, the first thing is you get to pick part of your access code. What I do is I do something that I'm going to remember, and that will be unique to that particular class in that particular semester. Since there are three of us at our school that teach Microsoft, we identify the beginning by our last name. So I do C for Clark, and then I would do B3 for block 3, then I do fall, F for fall 19. So that means something to me. C, B3, F19 to me says Clark, block 3, fall 19. But you can do whatever works for you. Number of students, I can fit 30 in my classroom. However, a lot of times the first week or 2 weeks of school, there's a lot of shifting, so I always allow at least 5 over what my class holds so that I have enough licenses. You must click multi-user. Otherwise, if you click individual, you're going to have to make an identifier for every single student. You won't have to do that. So now we're at expiration date. I don't usually leave this at 365 days. I might put 180 days in there, or you can put a date down in here. Alright. This is where it gets real confusing. First, you have tests per students. I usually leave that at 100. I've never had a student take 100 tests, but hey, you never know. One could come. The other things we have, allow for review. I keep that checked. I like them to be able to go back to miss questions. Even though it doesn't change their score, they can try again and get help. Study guides. That's real important. I'm going to go over that in part 2. But I keep this checked, and I'll show you how great it is. It's a great new feature. Alright, so depending on what your version you're using, what I do is start out with everything deselected. You don't want to give your kids too many options of tests to take. It confuses them, and they don't need to be trying to take a 2013 test when you've got 2016 installed. It won't even work. So we have 2016. I think probably most of y'all do. So I do the down arrow. And I see all the different kinds of programs that there are. Now, you got to remember, these are only pre-made tests that are made by GMetrix. The object when you get GMetrix is to make a lot of your own tests to test the students as you go through the skills. This is what I use in the very end to make sure that they're ready to take a test, the real test. So what I do is I just, there's all the different tests for PowerPoint. You can check all of them or some of them. In particular, I like to use these project reviews. They're just exactly like the exam, and you can you're checking both boxes because one is in training mode and one is in testing mode, as you can see right here. Okay, and do the same thing with Word. And if you do Word Expert, You do the same thing with that. Just check the practice and testing mode. Practice mode, they can get help. They can try things again. In testing mode, they don't know whether they're right or wrong or what their grade is till the very end, just like the real test. All right, so I do Word Expert. GMetrix helps me greatly with that. Okay. Now, at this point, if this is the first time you're using GMetrix, you're just going to continue on and click Confirm. If you've already made custom tests and you're making the access code for your new semester, you can go here, and if this is a Word PowerPoint class, I'll go in Word and check every single one of the ones that you want your students to have access to. So these are things that I made last semester. If this is your first time using and you don't have any custom tests, there's another way to assign them, and I'm going to show you in a minute. I also give my kids a pre-test and confirm. This step simply shows you everything you put in there. You make sure everything's okay. You click Create. And there's your code. Look, it gives you a longer code. There's the information you put in there, and the rest is generated by Microsoft. You want to give your students this whole code when they sign up for their accounts. Again, this will be in part 2 when I show you what we do with that. However, when you're using it as an administrator, all you need to know is that this section of it, the one that you put in there. And we'll get to that when we go to reports. So, that's access codes. Let's go now to custom tests. Because you're not using GMetrix till its full extent if you don't make custom tests. Testing the students after you've already done everything is great. It's a great way to see if they're ready to certify, but making little tests as you go is a much better way to assess the students and have them testing the whole time. So we can click Create New Test. And let's say we're going to do Microsoft Word chapters 1 through 3. Whatever you want to call it, just so that you'll know and they'll know what it is. I always type in 70 as the passing score. Why? Think about it. Students have to get a 70 or 700 to pass the certification test. I explain this to them all the time, that they want to get that 70, and it's my expectation when they're taking a test that they get a 70. If they don't, I make them take it again. Training mode. This is how I do the kids' their quizzes. This lets them have as much time as they want to do the quiz. It lets them get help, and it lets them see right away, question by question, whether they got it right or wrong. And if they got it wrong, they can go back and retry it. So this is a quiz. I'm going to check this. Next step, you got to select what you're using. All kinds of things we can be using, but we're using Office 2016. As soon as we click on that, all the products come up. I'm clicking Word 2016. Click Next. All right, there's multiple things we can do here. Let's look at the top. Right now, there's no question selected. It says there's 60 minutes time. The only reason you change that is if you were doing it in testing mode instead of training mode, like I just clicked. Randomized questions means that it will put totally random questions in there. I don't usually utilize that. Sometimes when I get into chapters 9 and 10, I might throw a couple random questions in there just to keep the kids on their toes. But right here at the beginning of the semester, when they don't know everything, you don't want to throw in stuff that they might not know. There's 2 ways that you can make a test. You can select your book and put your page numbers in, the page numbers of the book that you've selected. I don't find that to be as accurate as just going through here and checking the skills that I've gone over. I'm just going to click a couple here so this doesn't take too long. templates. We know templates are in Chapter 1. We know, no, this is in Chapter 1. So you get the idea. You just go through here and click the things that you have gone over, or select pages in the book that you've gone over. Then when you're done, right now I've got 2 questions in my test. When you're done, click Next. Custom test was submitted successfully. Here's where, when you're selecting and making your custom test right in the very beginning, when you first get your software, you click Assign Test. This is why you want to make the access codes first. And there's the access code that I just made. I check it. I assign it. The assign to student groups is if you make student groups. That's more advanced. I'm going to skip that for now. We're just doing it to access codes. I use that when I have an honor section. I group the honor section separately. Okay, it shows me the selected groups. I click Next, and it's been successfully assigned. Alright, so that's very easy. That's how you select and make a custom test. Next thing is, if you would like to make groups of students, this is where you do it. You can group them by student group or code group. Again, it's more advanced and it's nothing you need to worry about. Maybe you can play with it as you get better with GMetrix. Reports. There's 2 types of reports you can run. You can create a report of your own, where it's got a pass-fail rate of each product, number of tests. I don't use this. Now, student test results, it shows a breakdown of test results based on each individual student. You'll see students by name as well as their test score and their percentage. So I do use this. Most importantly, the objective breakdown. I like to see this and see whether I've got a bunch of students that don't understand a particular objective. And this has happened before, where I've looked at the grades of students and they got all 80% and 90% was their average on a test. But I went down and looked at the objective breakdown. 50% of them didn't understand one particular skill. So I needed to review that with them. So this is a pretty good thing to look at. On reports also, this is what I use every day, test tracking. Okay, here you can put in a list of dates. I'm not going to put in dates where I've actually got students, because that would be confidential. This is just something I use in my husband's name, and I just took a test the other day in there so you would be able to see. But you can put a range of dates in there. This is where the access code that you created, and remembering the middle portion is so important. So when you're running reports for particular classes, if you have more than one section of the class, you would put that access code in there to just get the students for that access code. And then you would click search and you would find the test. So then you can export your results and use that to put into your grade book. The other thing that's really cool is you can come over here under details and see the exact results of every person's. Like if you get somebody that got a terrible grade, you can click over here and see what they did wrong. Okay, this person didn't know how to print and save a document or create a document. They also didn't know how to insert text and paragraphs. So these are very important reasons why you would seek the information button over here. This concludes all the information for GMetrix as an administrator. Part 2 will go into what the students do and instructing them on how they need to get in there and how they use it. So stay tuned for Part 2.